So Darwin Nunez' move to Manchester United seems to be edging closer, but does he suit Ten Hag's system? Why do I think Ten Hag actually wants him? How could Ten Hag get the best out of him? And what is my overall verdict on Darwin Nunez as a player? But before I go any further, if you need a place where you can keep up to date with the latest transfer news, find all the match stats you need from games across the globe, and watch highlights and stream live football matches, then you need to download the OneFootball app. I use the OneFootball app because it's completely free, and not only do they have stats and transfer news, but they also have videos to watch and articles to read, which is where I get a lot of my ideas for new videos. And as I said before, you can stream live football matches and watch highlights all on the app. Downloading the OneFootball app will help support the channel as well, so I'll leave it linked in the description below. So I'm not going to analyse Nunez in depth individually, as I assume a lot of you already know what type of player he is, and I did make a video doing just that a while back, which I will leave linked in the description. But first of all, the transfer fee does concern me. The reported fee is €80 million, which is around £68 million. For that fee, the player coming in doesn't just have to be a starter week in week out, but also has to be the side's focal point, especially as a forward. But also United need a massive rebuild this summer, and there are reports that Ten Hag has a budget of around £120 million, plus whatever the club can bring in from player sales, which is a fair bit of money in my opinion, if spent right. But United need at least 5 to 6 new players this summer, and so blowing over half the original budget on one player is going to severely reduce the side's ability to improve other positions in the squad. United already have Cristiano Ronaldo, and they do need a long-term replacement for him, but as long as Ronaldo is there, he will start, and so any other centre forward brought in is going to have to suit the system with Ronaldo in it. I do think that this is possible with Nunez, but I do have a few reservations, and I'll explain that in just a bit. But also, most crucially, I'm not sure whether Nunez is the right type of forward for Ten Hag's system, and whether Ten Hag's system will get the best out of him. See, if you have watched Darwin Nunez play this season, you'll know that he's best when he's making direct runs in behind the back line, looking for a quick pass in behind to release him, and now usually this type of movement in behind is best utilised in a quick transition in attack, because obviously that space in behind the back line is only going to be available for that type of run when the back line is high up the pitch, which is going to occur when the turnover is in your defensive third. And so in order to release a forward in behind, you need to move the ball forward quickly via direct vertical passes through the defensive and middle thirds before them being able to play that through ball. In a possession oriented system, the side prioritises keeping possession of the ball after a turnover rather than moving the ball forward as quickly as possible. The benefit of this approach is that your attacks are more organised and structured, as the slower tempo allows the players to move into the correct positions. However, the disadvantage is that this also gives the opposition side time to get back into their defensive positions, and so a lot of these spaces between the lines and in behind the back line end up being closed off. This is the main difference between Klopp's gegenpressing and Guardiola's so-called tiki-taka. Klopp's side look to play vertical forward passes to move the ball forward up the pitch quickly after a turnover, whereas Pep's sides are more inclined to retain possession. Ten Hag's style definitely leans more to Pep than it does to Klopp. But this isn't to say that Ten Hag's style doesn't allow his side to exploit the space between the lines, or that they aren't capable of transitioning the attack quickly. They instead do it through quick passes and interplay, rather than by a few direct vertical passes. And the game between Ajax and Dortmund at the Westfalenstadion earlier on this season was a perfect example of this. We see here that Ajax have the ball with the keeper, and Dortmund are defending with 10 men, and that is a reason why space does appear between the lines, but in general this applies to high pressing sides, even with 11 men, which Dortmund are trying to do. The ball gets switched out to Daley Blind on the left side, and you can see here that because Dortmund continue to engage Ajax high up the pitch, the midfield line gets dragged out of position, and there's a massive amount of space for Klaassen to move into, allowing Ajax to play right through Dortmund's defensive shape. And from this angle you can see how Darwin Nunez would potentially thrive in a system like this, as the Dortmund back line is high up the pitch and Ajax have been able to move the ball through the defensive and middle thirds quickly, and at this point you can see how if Nunez was playing from that left side for example, that ball in behind to release him would definitely be on. And so just because Ten Hag doesn't use the quickest transition in attack, focused on moving the ball forward as quickly as possible with vertical passes, this doesn't mean that he couldn't still use Darwin Nunez, his running in behind, and play to his strengths. However, this comes down to the type of opposition Ten Hag's side come up against. Ajax were able to break through Dortmund and get into this position where they could look to exploit their high defensive line because Dortmund looked to engage them high up the pitch. And in general I think European sides tend to press a lot higher than Premier League sides. If Ajax had been up against a Premier League side who, rather than looking to press Daley Blind when he received the ball, instead held a compact 4-5-1, 4-4-2 or a 5-4-1 shape, then that space doesn't open up between the lines and that pass in behind for Nunez isn't on. Also, sides that don't want to press aggressively and prefer to sit in a compact defensive shape tend to also sit a lot deeper, which closes up that space in behind further, and that is a problem that I can see potentially happening with Nunez at United. I think in big games against the likes of City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, when United are being pressed high, Ten Hag's system and the players he will deploy will have the ability to play around this press and exploit the space between the lines and in behind. However, against the sides like Wolves, West Ham, Newcastle, etc., who prefer to retain a deeper compact shape, that space isn't going to be there, and that's when you need a forward who can drop off and receive the ball in tight areas and link the attack, allowing the side to progress the ball into the final third that way instead. And this is one of Nunez's biggest weaknesses. He's not a deeper lying forward like Benzema or Lautaro Martinez, who excels at dropping off from the forward line and linking the play in congested areas, as his first touch and ball control is just not at the level required to play this role. His technique is rather clumsy, and when under pressure with his back to goal, the ball almost bounces off him at times, and I think he's very similar to someone like Romelu Lukaku or even Fernando Torres at Chelsea, and therefore if signed for United, Nunez is going to struggle with this aspect of the game, and I just feel that this is vital for Ten Hag's system. So knowing this, why does Ten Hag want Nunez if his biggest weakness seems like a liability in the system? Well, I think Ten Hag is going for the approach of goals win your games. Sounds oversimplified, but the reality of football is that the silky interplay and build up counts for nothing if you can't put the ball into the back of the net, and that's something United have desperately struggled with this season, with Ronaldo being their only real clinical finisher in the side. Nunez without a doubt will offer an improvement in this area. This season in Liga NOS he's hit 26 goals in 28 games, the league's top scorer, whilst also scoring 6 goals in 10 Champions League games, which has seen him hit 34 goals in 41 games in all competitions. I could see Ten Hag deploying him from the left of a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1, but unlike Sancho on the other side, who would be more of a natural winger, Nunez would play as a wide forward, holding his width but looking to make diagonal runs in behind, and in the final third he would move centrally, creating a front two alongside Ronaldo. From a defensive point of view, Nunez would be perfect, being capable of pressing from that left side and could provide a defensive cover of a left-sided midfielder as well, enabling Ronaldo to retain a central position. He'd allow Ten Hag to transition the attack quickly, either by providing those runs in behind from the left, looking for a quick pass over the back line, but he's also very good at carrying the ball, so if United could get the ball out to him on the left flank quickly on the counter, he has the power and pace to drive the attack forward, and if needed he could also be used as a wide target man, which could be beneficial if United are being pressed aggressively, and rather than trying to play out of the press, they could instead look for one of the centre backs or fullbacks to play a direct long ball into Nunez, who should dominate most fullbacks in the air, able to win the header or take the ball down on his chest, and this will allow United to go from the defensive to the middle third a lot quicker. Definitely an alternative option that Ten Hag should be considering. So what's my overall verdict on the Uruguayan? Well, I do think he's a very good striker, top level even, especially in the current market where there aren't a massive supply of top level goal scoring forwards. However, £68 million is just far too much. I think he could be a good option for Ten Hag, but I just don't see him being a viable option in all games. His lack of ability to link the play and hold up the ball is going to be a massive issue, and I think a lot of attacks will break down because of this. He's a very specialised forward and great when he's able to run in behind and from aerial situations in the box, and this is something I do speak about in a video I have coming out soon about how United could win the title next season, with me referring back to Blackburn's title win in 1995. It sounds a bit random, but I think it's a good video, so subscribe for that. I am working on it as we speak. But in regards to Nunez, I'll take him at United for between 30 and 40 million pounds as an alternative option. I think he could potentially be a 15 to 20 goal a season Premier League striker, but I think he's going to face the same issues that Lukaku had at United, and that's why I don't think £68 million is worth the gamble, particularly when United need to improve so many other positions, and that they could bring in one of Lautaro Martinez or Christopher Nkunku for that price, who I think fit Ten Hag's system a lot better and are a level above Nunez at the moment, and have higher potential ceilings than Nunez in my opinion, and so my verdict is that United shouldn't sign Nunez, particularly for that exorbitant fee, even though I do think that at another club with a system tailored to his strengths, he could be one of the best forwards in Europe.